We have a big match this round for you. Two heavyweights in the scene for Riftbound as we get ourselves ready to go. Marcus Bartel, a former European champion in Yu-Gi-Oh, going up against Alan ZQ, a very, very, very well-known player for, of course, Legends Runeterra World Champion, and the best of Kaiser from Houston from the regionals there.
Yeah, he is surely one of a kind, and I think at this point he is just aura farming. He has announced on X that he is going to win multiple metal best of cards of Ezreal, the Prodigal Explorer, and he's absolutely crushing it. He's the only undefeated Riftbounder in this tournament. You can see a tech on the bottom right of this deck that is so absolutely genius. We've seen it before yesterday from Ludwig, who was also running Ezreal Prodigal Explorer. That is the Vex, a card that you actually mentioned in the beginning. I think it was one of your favorite picks.
Yeah,
it was crazy good.
Weirdly, it was one I picked because it's a card that I like, not a card that I thought was going to be played so much. So I guess I'll take a win on that one. And then we look over on the opposite side of the table. As I said, a very formidable player in their own right, playing the Draven. This is the first time you and I are going to actually get to cast a Draven game. And this version is the mid-range Draven. Ooh, wow. Okay, there's a card in this list that we haven't seen too much. Like, we've not seen a whole lot of Darius recently. Yeah. Sometimes throughout this tournament, you and I haven't been able to see it too much. Obviously, saw it a heck of a lot in Origins, in the Kaiser decks.
Absolutely. It's one of the easiest units to just play and then push into a battlefield immediately. It was always used with the Cleave card, so you could imagine immediately for 6 energy, just have a ready unit that goes up to 10 might, which is absolutely crazy, especially if you're looking at the power level of Origins. However, in the Draven deck, in Draven you want to have some tempo. This card is also incredibly useful, paired with some units that are incredibly sticky. So you can push a Ferris Forerunner, you develop it, you already have a great presence on board, and then in the next turn you're following that up with a Darius. It's really hard to beat them. That is also why, so far, Draven has been the best deck of the tournament. And
Draven on the first turn of the game is always a good sign if you're a Draven player. One of the reasons that Draven is quite so so consistent is it curves out extremely well. 2 might into 4 might into 2 power into 4 power, for instance, goes very well throughout the early game. It's going to be a very early Ezreal play from Alan, getting that draw.
Immediately developing it. Also, he forgot to put his headphones on, which is not too bad, but now we know we fixed that.
One thing about that, we of course do play with some delay there, so it's not that he will be able to hear us at any point. Thankfully, these games have already at least begun and started taking place, so we are working with a little bit of a buffer there. So Treasure Hunter goes to the battlefield, over to Reaver's Row. We'll get the gold. And that's one of the things, getting these gold tokens early on just allows you to kind of compensate for recycling at any point, whether it's with the Draven ability on the attack or defender trigger, or there are multiple other cards in the deck that force recruitment, force recycling. Treasure Hunter going to use the Reaver's Row to back away as Ezreal goes to the base.
That is already inherently broken, right? You have a 2-drop, of course only 1 might, but you scored a point, and then you had the Reaver's Row as well to just immediately generate another piece of gold. But the Bellows Breath is being used afterwards in base, so you can also hit the Draven with it and then go for a Frigid Touch, immediately making so much use out of this passive ability of Ezreal. Alan ZQ is showing everyone, hey, here I am and I'm going to rock you like a hurricane.
I've seen a lot of chatter around this Ezreal deck being very, very strong into a lot of the matchups like Draven. Of course, Ezreal with Reaver's Row, for once you can actually move it to a battlefield and say, yeah, I'll just take that defense trigger. However, the problem with that is you, of course, essentially losing a combat, which Draven is fine with that. It's like, yeah, I'll get benefit from doing that.
Especially versus a Kaiser, right? So that was 2 draws immediately. It was very good for Marcus. However, Alan ZQ, I mean, he is playing the Ezreal deck. He is going to repeat so many card effects, so you really want this Ezreal Prodigy in your base. You want it to be safe and sound. But now, how are we going to follow this up? I think this is a Ravenbloom student. That is a 2-drop that has been falling out of favor when Spirit Forge released. Oh, we are going to actually play the Seal of Discord. So important in that deck. Oh, we're going to go for the combination that shouldn't be possible. Fizz plus the Arcane Shift.
Oh, hard bargain in response. So
days.
Arcane Shift ends up in the bin. Will now, of course, try and take Kai'Sa out from the battlefield, as that will come through. Hard bargain.
So we're dealing the damage here. Fight or flight is not happening. Have we done any damage to that Kai'Sa before?
Well, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Am I missing something? It's possible I am.
I think we might be missing something. This did
Because typically Arcane there's...
3 damage.
Yeah, Bellow's Breath wasn't cast as well.
There might be something on the Fizz that makes
No, and it's not on the Void Gate. Are we assuming that Void Gate is the battlefield? Because we're on Reaver's Row, right? Void Gate is the other battlefield. Kai'Sa was set on Reaver's Row. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but
So for the moment...
I feel like Kai'Sa should have been alive on 1. Yeah. Does Void Gate, is it asymmetrical? Is it just units at this battlefield?
I think you blinked out. I think I have it.
Okay.
I think you might have blinked out the Fizz and then replay it and then get the Frigid Touch from the discard pile to lower the Kai'Sa's might. Then again, we did not see
shortcutting potentially? Okay, sorry.
But I'm going to clarify this. I'm going to try and clarify this with some of the judges. Of course, this game has already happened. It has happened in the past. We're working with a slight delay here. So even if we realize something that would be wrong with the game, which I honestly, when we were playing with Alan ZQ versus Marcus Patel,
I'm going to assume they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. We couldn't help it. So we're going with what we got here. Next is Hopeful. Nox is Hopeful. It's going to be played in the base after a falling star. Vex is now ready.
I'm pretty sure you're right. It was the Fizz, Arcane Shift, Fizz again, and then it gets the Frigid Touch out of the trash.
So the Reaver's Row is absolutely pivotal for the Draven strategy if you are playing Reaver's Row in game 1, especially because you probably know what your opponent is on. Maybe you have a different battlefield you want to play when you know that you're playing a Draven matchup or when you don't know what you're playing. But Reaver's Row is incredibly powerful because every time you use it, you save a unit. You can have something like an Overzealous Fan that gets you very important points. And then again, if your opponent uses it, you get a free draw. So now the Morbid Return gets you back the Ezreal. This is also a really nice way to play around the scenario where you think, hey, maybe I need to play 2 Ezreal or 3 Ezreal in my deck to constantly have Ezreals. You can play Morbid Return in case your Ezreal gets removed from the battlefield. However, you can also use it on other cards like the Fizz Trickster.
Yeah, and then so there's a couple of really unique interactions here. I think you saw Alan like ready 1 rune because he paid extra. There actually was, I believe, a combat showdown going on with Vex. Even though the defender trigger comes in and Reaver's Row you move back, technically Vex is involved in a combat, so it allows you to pay less for a spell that happens during a combat Vex is involved with. Just catching up on the current state of the game from this. I will say, Alan being 11-0 with a deck that constantly recurs things from the graveyard and is relatively complex to play is impressive at this point. To be very clean on exactly what's happening. Clearly, I've lost what
I'm gonna say it's scary to go up against as well because this is also a deck that really needs some time. You have grinded out games. LZQ deciding, oh, I love this about Reaver's Row. I'm going to go into that later on. But this is a deck that really takes quite some time.
Yeah.
And I'm very impressed that he actually managed to not draw a single time or lose to timeout, but just went 11-0. That is absolutely massive.
Yeah, huge. No. I mean, you expect that from a player that you know was getting the best of Kai'Sa in a meta that Kai'Sa was very, very prevalent of back in Houston.
Now, I really enjoy what Alan ZQ is doing with the Reaver's Row here. You have this Vex 5 might, and he just shies away from an Overzealous Fan, which is only at 2 might, knowing, hey, I do not have any combat tricks, and I don't want my opponent to commit heavily into this play so that they can get the actual kill on my Vex.
And I find it interesting, we were talking about this a little bit, knowing that we were going to kind of be looking at this matchup for a few minutes before we started. We were talking about the prevalence of Vex in this list maybe not hitting Draven as much as it hits other matchups, because, for instance, like an Aurelia, Vex will shut down pretty hard, but Draven has spinning axes, which I'm pretty sure Vex doesn't actually affect. I'm pretty sure it spells during the turn, and of course gear do not get affected by that.
Exactly, especially not if it's quick draw.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't change anything.
No, but quick draw makes it nice and difficult to play around.
That's the one you can use in combat. Unsecu carefully sequencing out his turn in his mind. All right, we are going to maybe do something with a Ravenbloom student. Of course, you have just drawn into Singularity, a card that is really well used by Ezreal. However, Ezreal, especially in this version, if you do not have gold tokens from, for example, a card shop, you will not be able to use your Seal of Discord to reduce the power cost you have to pay for Singularity.
I wonder, though, Singularity here, is there a danger that it whiffs? Because we know there's multiple spinning axes in hand. So do you just, like, with the targets when they get selected, you go spinning axe, I'm up and above? Because you imagine Darius is the one that's you're going to try and Singularity, and I would assume Nox is hopeful potentially on top of that. But spinning axe would put both of those. Although Void Gate would prevent the Noxus hopeful. So you might have to put both, or at least cast 2 spells just to untap Darius to keep it safe on that 7.
I mean, if your opponent uses a Singularity just to get rid of a Noxus hopeful, I think you just take it, right? You don't need to necessarily preserve it and put 2 spinning axes on it. I
guess my point is more that Alan has to think about through all of these lines. Is like which two cards or you know, what 2 abilities are going to be able to nullify a Singularity. So it's one of many, many, many options at this point. And this is why I'm impressed at the clean gameplay that is required from an Ezreal list like this.
Now, Marcus even said, I don't even need to play a combat with this. Is not going to use the spinning axes on the Vex fight with his Noxus Hopeful. Now, Seal of Discord is now going to be tapped so that the Vex comes in for free. Vex cheerless. Those stack, right? So if you're attacking with 2 Vex, your opponent has to pay so much for each of their spells.
Yeah, that's the really important thing to be aware of. It does have to be a combat that involves Vex. So yeah, if you're attacking or defending with both of them, you'll get both triggers. But other than that, they do not both apply in that regard.
That sounds like it's made for the Aurelia matchup, which is otherwise a really tough matchup for the Ezreal deck. But if you're playing versus Aurelia, they just have one big unit, and you tell them all of a sudden your discipline is costing 4 energy and 2 power.
Oh, that's painful if that is the case. I think one thing that we're going to see the spinning axe potentially here. I was going to say one thing that might be pretty influential in this matchup. The Brynn here that we just saw in hand may very well come into importance later.
Thundersong is also a card you need to learn how to play around it.
Yeah.
Because there's many different things your opponent can force you to do when they play it. So if you play it and you have 10 runes open, you kind of need to throw all of your cards in hand into it, or just accept that the Brynn here is going to be a massive turn for your opponent. So what you want to do is keep some runes open, but try to play as efficient as possible on your turn still, so that you don't give them a great Brynn here turn, but also don't force them to not play it because you're tapped out, because then you're always tapped out and that doesn't help you.
Right, I was going to say, Alan looked like he was going for Arcane Shift, of course, cost reduction. That is going to be a double hard bargain. That is paid 5 for the repeat, which is a significant investment, but it will cause Darius to ready and get that additional might.
Marcus is driving a hard bargain here. Rebuke is going to be played for 1 energy.
Oh,
wow.
And then that is painful. After that hard bargain, you have to assume there's probably not another one coming.
And then that forces something else. If the Darius is going to get removed here, that forces the following thing. The spinning axe.
Do you have to equip it then so that you don't lose it on the next turn?
You kind of have to put it, either you play another Darius, or you have to put it on the Overzealous Fan. There's already 1 trigger on the Ravenbloom student. So this one is at 3 now, because, you know, the other one got negated.
Yeah, and you can't afford the Darius either.
Yeah, so
it has to go on the Fan.
I mean, you keep the spinning axe around, but your opponent just steals 1 more power from you, which is really, really strong. And in those grindy games, I mean, sometimes it doesn't sound that bad that you have to pay 1 extra power cost, right? But if you're looking over the next future turns, right? If you're looking at the next 4 turns, that is in total 4 energy that you are missing just because you had to pay 1 more cost if you're trying to be very efficient.
Hey, here's the second spinning axe. Again, not affected by Vex, so this time Vex will head to the trash.
But then again, this is a unit that definitely can be gotten rid of. I don't know if that's even a sentence, actually. Sorry.
That makes sense.
But
I'll take that.
I mean, if you now get rid of the overzealous fan, which you really can't necessarily do by combat. Ah, no, wait, actually, it's not the Reaver Throw effect. It's sacrifice this card and then push 1 from your opponent back. But if you just singularity it, which in the Void Gate still works, you're gonna get rid of the double spinning axe.
Yeah, now that becomes a question of like, what's the importance of that? Does Alan also have any additional ways to do it? Are there any like mainboard rebukes? I wish I'd have paid more attention to the deck list.
I mean, we saw one.
We've seen one already. Yeah. Okay. So how many are there going to be? I guess then is the answer to that. Like, are there any left?
I mean,
the deck?
You have Fizz, Trickster, so
yeah,
I
you can bring it back. That's another very, very solid point. This is, again, what I mean about this deck is like there's so much to follow in the sense of like your trash is not out of the game. Like the only thing so far that's banished is the Arcane Shift. And I believe the second one was hard bargained, right? So that's also a target for Fizz.
Yeah, definitely.
In future.
Oh, it's really, really strong what LNZQ can do with those Fizzes here. The only thing that is not as efficient about Fizz than with just hard playing the card is if you're pushing Vex into the battlefield and you have an action spell that is going to save you from the overzealous fan with 2 spinning axes, or get rid of it rather, then it's going to be much cheaper than when you're just playing a Fizz, right?
Very true, very true. But you know, that would be broken if Fizz could be used at any speed other than the regular speed. Pretty sure we just got a quote unquote free called shot with the first seal. There is a Fizz in hand. There is a Mind Splitter, so sometimes the best option is just find out what you're playing against and get rid of something.
Oh, we're going to use a spinning axe again. This is the biggest overzealous fan I've seen in quite a long time, but this looks like an absolute destruction. LNZQ is going through this matchup like nothing else. Now gets complete information. There's Darius, there's a Ferris Forerunner.
These are huge units,
yeah,
huge units that if they stick on the battlefield, here comes the Fizz. Do we go for the rebuke and then get
free rebuke from the Fizz effect, and LNZQ just gives up and says, yep, that's gonna do it. Wow, LNZQ, that looked like child's play for him, honestly. He just went through this matchup.
That is very clean. Very, very, very clean. Impressive at that point. I mean, I think most people would be quite panicked with seeing 3 spinning axes come out. And, very impressed by Alan's first game in this series.
Look at him rolling up his sleeves here, going into game too soon. There you can see the deck list. Look at it. Remember it. Write some notes down, because this is what it's all about. We have 1000 Tailed Watcher, 1 Mind Splitter. Those are cards that you are seeing quite frequently with triple Cold Shot and of course also stacked decks. So you have quite the draw power in this deck, especially when you're considering that most of your cards just alone trigger the Prodigal Explorer ability, so you can draw cards and then you can combine those with more Arcane Shifts.
And there are some interesting ones like 1 copy of Smokescreen, 1 copy of Morbid Return, some very like finely tuned details to this deck, which I like. It's impressive, but you know, when you're net decking and you're taking someone's deck, not having the rationale for why specific cards are one-offs in there, like you might think you know, but actually until you've played out the amount of reps that a deck deserves, it can be very difficult to play it out. Now we see Marcus's sideboard.
That's true. So sometimes if you just net deck a deck, you don't know what it's all about. But for random one-offs, there's always one reasoning that is always going to be true. It's going to make the game for your opponent much harder. First of all, if they don't play around it because they think you might not play it. And second of all, if they play around it constantly because they have seen it in either on your table in the previous round or in game 1, and they play around a Smokescreen and you never had a Smokescreen, but it's in their head. So you're going to make... You might not even draw it, but it's still going to affect the game.
I think that might have potentially an impact in this matchup as well, if it comes to it. 1 copy of Edge of Night in Marcus's deck, and at least 1 copy of Switcheroo that we saw coming from this. So very interesting matchup. I would say, of all the matchups we've had so far, this I would say is like our heavyweight contest of names in card games playing now on day 2, looking for a spot in the top 8. 11-0 against 10-1.
You know, Marcus Patel.
Yeah.
I've seen him play other games so far already. I know how great of a TCG player he is. He's super experienced. He has the titles to his name as well. We're immediately going down in power again, starting off with the Ezreal. We want to find our seals. We want to find our cards. But also, I talked to him before the round. I was like, did you play versus Alan already? And he said, no, dude, thankfully not. Because if I see Alan, if I play versus Alan, I'm just going to scoop, man.
Well, that... at the end of the game happened for Marcus in game 1, knowing when he was done and saying, okay, let's get into the next game. Interestingly, Targon's Peak, a battlefield we haven't seen so much in Spirit Forge. Marcus is saying, yeah, I kind of just want to play Annie.
Exactly.
Like, let me play Annie.
There are people who play Annie over Draven because it's so strong to get your 2 runes back at the end of the turn. Targon's Peak makes your deck just Annie on default, plus the Draven ability. It is phenomenal. You can just play out in most of these turns, especially when decks do not want you to get those combats and they shy away from combats. They give you a few free points, maybe with something like the Pit Rookie combination with Cull.
Yep.
You know, they are giving you some points, they take those points back, but if you can be more energy efficient, you can play a Ferris Forerunner on 6 runes and then ready 2 runes. There is so much Draven can do with 2 energy open.
Yeah, and we've just seen some of it in hand with a Ferris Forerunner as well, but it's actually going to be Marcus saying, go. With a Ferris Forerunner, didn't want to commit into it. Of course, this turn wouldn't have been able to untap because you're not conquering Targon's Peak, so wouldn't have access to that. It would have to be on a subsequent turn. But there are multiple spinning axes, and here is potentially the way, already flipping one rune. It is Alan's priority first, though, in the showdown. This is one of the ways where you can kind of play around this Vex. Spinning X, again, we mentioned it in game 1, does not get affected by Vex's asymmetrical ability. For those of you that are not familiar with Vex, it will make your opponent's spells during combat with Vex cost more. It's 1 and a recycle, and your spells will cost 1 and 1 recycle less during combat that Vex is involved with.
And it's so funny because you can just, you know, you don't have a seal yet. You think, hey, Cold Shot might be expensive.
Free Cold Shot.
Exactly, together with your Ezreal.
The Ezreal? Cool, I'll look at 4 cards and take 2 of them.
It's so good. You basically essentially play 6 seals now.
Oh, and then an Arcane Shift is another great choice. That looks like a retreat.
We are getting just through so many cards already in this turn. You just need to make sure that you can save the Vex if your opponent has enough combat tricks, because when you're playing versus Draven and they leave open 6 runes, there's going to be something coming your way.
And now you basically are just looking at like all these cards that are low cost. It is to a minimum of 1, so Stupefy does not become free. But you're looking at all of these cards and you're like, well, that costs 1, that costs 1, that costs 1. Like everything is so cheap.
This is half a binder in LNZQ's hand. Can also go for the Prodigal Explorer. Gets more cards. We want more cards. We want more cards. Double Stupefy equals triple draw. Now, the first response for Marcus, he's like, hey, can I play some cards
please.
too?
I would like to play a card in this showdown, please.
No, that is very interesting. Puts up the Draven to a total of 9 might minus 2, so it's 7 again. We're going to resolve the Stupefy, as this was a reaction response onto the Stupefy. And now LNZQ has the priority again and is going to just use Rebuke for 1 power cost and 1 energy cost. Vex all of a sudden. It was so overlooked, but it feels like it's the obvious choice for every deck, no?
And Alan, okay, hard bargain, important, spending a lot. That's a 6 cost repeated hard bargain.
But LNZQ drives a hard bargain too. Is gonna hard bargain. The hard bargain, you can get your Draven back, and the Spinning Axe preemptively put to the trash. This card is not going anywhere. It's another game where LNZQ is dominating.
And Marcus took an entire turn off calculating like, okay, I'm going to need the Spinning Axe. I'm going to need the repeated hard bargain in order to win through this. And Alan says, no, I've seen half of my deck. I have the cost reduction in play, and I'm just going to have every single answer that I need in this situation.
Dude, you're onto something with your Vex prediction. This card is absolutely phenomenal. It's looking so strong.
I am that annoying hand destruction, like tax you kind of player when I play card games. So I'm so sorry to anybody that ever had has to play against Vex against this, but Alan is making it look incredibly strong.
It's so crazy. And honestly, this Obelisk of Power is not going to be attacked next turn because, let's be honest, we have now conquered the Targon's Peak. That is going to give us 2 runes at the end of the turn. It's going to refresh them. We're going to put them active again. And now our double seals, triple seals. We're never going to pay any power cost again.
And when your spells are getting reduced in cost anyway, and you're like, okay, well, I just need to skirt around the whole I need to recycle thing part of things. And that's a Rasa. I'm assuming that is, yeah, for 1, probably for the number of cards. Alan's just counting, proving it that it is at least low cost. Who even needs to pay for spells and units anymore in Riftbound?
Exactly, not if you're Alan ZQ. This is just an utter destruction. Goes in with the spinning axe onto that Vex. We are now at even might. Does Alan ZQ even want to respond this? Is it possible?
Okay.
No, I think he actually forgot the Targon's Peak trigger.
I think you might be right, because there was a conquer through, right? That did happen. As mentioned, we are these games were played out a little bit in the past, so nothing we can say or do at this point in time would affect the state of play. I think you may very well be correct on that, which is costly at that point, if it indeed is the correct.
Got rid of that Vex somehow. Targon's Peak is gonna be held, and now the situation isn't even changing so much. You only have 6 runes for this turn, so you only have 6 energy. I mean, power cost is not something you're going to be very likely to pay with your 3 Seals of Discord. But there's only so much energy you can pay.
Yes. Alan does also have another Vex in hand. Of course, again, it is quite a costly unit to actually get out onto the battlefield to get it into base, and then it obviously takes another turn from there.
Well, he's giving him a run for his money, though. I feel like those 2 runes could have really done a lot there, especially since there's cards like Wages of Pain in hand or the Arcane Shift. Those could have been used on the attack onto the Vex. Now we're going to develop a Vex. We're going to hide the Wages of Pain into the Targon's Peak. Of course, just paying with the Seal of Discord. Again, we're never going to pay power cost ever again in this game unless it has to be mined.
Yeah, that's... if you're Ezreal and you have 3 seals out, something has gone well in the game so far. However, it's a very strong, like scary hand on the side of Marcus, having big units, having, you know, the Ferris Forerunner there. This is setting up to be next turn contesting battlefields, trying to go over the top, trying to establish presence and say, okay, it doesn't matter if I have to pay a lot for spells, if I'm just stronger than you in the moment, and so strong that you cannot get past me.
I can see that. Now, all of a sudden, Marcus Patel is in a really advantageous position, has bigger units on board, and I think it always felt like to me that Alan ZQ was really far ahead in both of these games, but I think that's just his aura at this point.
But look at the spells that are in hand. There's an Arcane Shift, there's, you know, if you hold a battlefield, you can Arcane Shift, and as long as you control it, sorry, when I say hold, I mean if you're controlling a battlefield, you're able to play the unit back to it. So it's something like, do you deal 3 damage, blink the Rasa from one battlefield to the other if the Vex is there, so that you immediately bring more power over. You know you've got the hidden card as well. There's like a lot of tricky options that Alan has. I think from Marcus' side, that is like, okay, what crazy line is Alan going to do if I try and go into a showdown?
I mean, if you're playing versus Ezreal that is controlling 2 battlefields currently,
that's scary.
It becomes just so much scarier with the Arcane Shift. You're absolutely right about that on the spot. So, Alan ZQ, he hasn't targeted cards in a long time. We cannot forget about the Wages of Pain that is being hidden right now. I think about 4 to 5 cards in hand. We're still going to consider what we're taking back for the Morbid Return. It is another Vex.
Wow.
So not only for the Irelia matchup.
That's crazy.
This card is being highly valued by Alan ZQ. Of course, Seal of Discord is going to be exhausted to pay the power cost.
Like crazy in a good way is what I mean. I'm not saying crazy bad decision. I'm saying crazy that like Vex is a card that was not on people's radar are coming into this, and we're seeing it have such a high prevalence in a game where somebody is 11-0. Alan is 11-0, undefeated with this, and we're seeing it come back with a morbid return. Again, another card that is on nobody's radar for being in the meta right now. We've all talked about and heard about Draven all the time. The League of Draven is what we were expecting this weekend, and it's not over for Marcus yet. Still has the point lead, still is developing a board, but I am in awe of just how this matchup is playing out.
100%. It's really, really interesting. Now, I'm quite curious. Oh, against the odds, putting 2 extra might on this Ferris Forerunner, and LNZQ is just answering with the Wages of Pain. There could have been some potential play with the Arcane Shift as well to deal 6 damage to the Ferris Forerunner, but now that it's boosted anyways, I feel like you just take the even trade. And I'm saying even in quotation marks because there is still going to be 6 might in the base of Marcus. Patel can now conquer the Targon's Peak, is gonna ready 2 runes at the end of the turn, place another Draven and the Overzealous Fan.
It is a big battlefield. I think there's a Kai'Sa in hand as well, so we're looking at accelerated units at the end of the turn. Marcus will get the untap, readies 2 runes because of the conquer on Targon's Peak. Now, Alan, this is where the million lines in front of you make this very tricky. Marcus has a very clear strategy. The board has been established. Now how do you just conquer both on the next turn in order to take this to a game 3?
And I mean, this is what Draven does best, right? People have been talking about how incredibly strong Draven is in these scenarios.
Double Vex.
If you're at 6 points.
Spells are going to become basically free at this point.
The good thing is I think you know at LNZQ side that there can't be spinning X's anymore.
Okay, Alan does take a step back from that showdown starting. Moves Ezreal to the Obelisk of Power first, now moves Vex in to begin the showdown on Targon's.
Oh, is he?
And then you're going to blink the Ezreal back, because of course it then, of course, is going to go back to safety.
Ezreal taking this and is of course going to be able to draw more cards. We have another body. We don't
need a third Vex. get out of here.
Oh my goodness. Instead of drawing into useful combat tricks, you found 2 Raven Blue
2 students. That is rough.
But you do have Bellows Breath and Smokescreen, so those cards can help you. There's also Frigid Touch. So if you are... The thing is, he put 2 Vex into 1 battlefield. So...
I mean, that makes Smokescreen and Bellows Breath and Frigid Touch very much cheaper on a following turn, but...
That is true, but only if the combat is happening with the Vexes. If you spread out the Vexes evenly, you don't really get the full discount of 2 energy that you're paying less. I think I like it. You can give your opponent 1 Obelisk of Power Conquer, and then you're holding with double Vex. That is a pretty decent line. Bellows Breath is just going to be used now on 3 units in the base. We're
still in the combat.
Yeah.
So the reduction cost is still going. Again, even though we're not dealing with anything within the battlefield that Vex is at, there is still a combat showdown going on.
So you can't play these cards for free with Vex, right?
No, it's to a minimum of 1. So I'm pretty sure.
1 energy, right? So
yes, I'm gonna double check that.
So you're not
pretty sure it is.
Pay the power cost, of course. Ezreal is going to trigger as the legend ability, so that's another way of finding cards to draw. I think you only need to pay 1 energy in total for the double Bellows Breath because you have Ezreal Prodigy in your base as well, so you use that one to not pay the extra energy, and the Vexes take away the power cost of the Bellows Breath.
You are correct. It is to a minimum of 1 energy specifically. It's important to be very clear on that, especially at this point when you're fighting for top 8 potentially. I mean, you have to believe Alan ZQ being in an 11-0 position, you're thinking about, okay, you never want to say you're guaranteed until mathematically it's done, but Bellows Breath is going to come out, put damage on the backline. Now, does that mean while we stay in the combat, here we see Smokescreen, Frigid Touch on the backline units?
Frigid Touch looks good here.
Repeat for 2 different units. Yeah, there we go.
The Draven gets killed immediately, and with the Overzealous Fan.
Yeah, Smokescreen goes on it as well. Is that enough? It is. It will eat through the Overzealous Fan. So just utilizing combat phases to deal with totally different parts of the game is the level of like in-depth that Alan is going to in this matchup.
I am in awe about this. This is so fantastic what LNZQ is doing here. And Marcus Patel, he is one of the best TCG players in the world, but
oh, here comes the Fizz. I mean, there are more options. Is it Bellows Breath again, or okay, Cold Shot? Okay, we're not going for more kills. We're going for I need to refill my hand again. Free Cold Shots just by tapping that seal.
Yep, and remember, you still have to play the power cost. You're ignoring the energy cost, so Cold Shot is not the most efficient card you would want to use with a Fizz, but. I mean, at this point, you have seals.
If it's a seal of Discord, yeah.
You have 20 seals, basically, at this point.
I feel like we've had more arcane shifts in this one round than I've seen
in my life.
Anybody, I was going to say anybody play.
Also, very interesting to note, there is going to be another Targon's Peak trigger. Because we have just conquered this battlefield, so actually also making good use of that. If he remembers this time, I can see players forgetting battlefield triggers way more often when it's actually about battlefields of the other player.
Yeah, there is the untap. This time Alan ZQ will ready the 2 runes at the end. And also, never to underestimate, regardless of the fact that both of these are extremely experienced players, playing in a feature match, in a high-pressure match, is always going to be the time where, you know, you have to focus on so much. I can 100%. Always understand something at the end of a turn, just sneaking by and I knew I forgot to do that type of thing. Can never underestimate. It's easy to watch a game and say, oh, I forgot this bit.
And we even miss stuff. We are watching the game, we see both players end.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
But there's also, of course, this is such a nice dynamic game, Riftbound, that is. You are having so many different interactions. There's so many things that can happen to you. So Kaiser is going to try and take the Obelisk of Power. Wants to get another point, wants to get another draw.
Is this the same thing? You do it on, are we doing it on the Fizz in order to get that spell cast? We are.
Are you rebuking? Are you rebuking the Kaiser?
Or it's just to deal, like, get a minus. Is it Stupefy? You find a Stupefy, get the -1, get a card draw,
and deal 3 damage.
Because, you know, looking at it, okay, could be Frigid Touch or whatever, but no, go for the Stupefy, get the card draw, refill. The amount of cleanliness, I mean, that's the way I'm going to keep saying it. Alan is playing very cleanly, and Marcus is putting up such a fight, such a good fight. Now we'll go up to 7. But I mean, with the Conquer.
Going up to 7 is not really going to help him. He's trying to hold that battlefield with everything he got. This is hiding another card. This is another game shot.
And hiding all the units at the battlefield. I was like, we need to be able to calculate the math. So it's 2 mechs, plus a Noxus Hopeful, plus a Fight or Flight. And now Alan is going to ready. At this point, it's to go to 12-0. If Alan can go and hold this first battlefield and then conquer the second, it's a Watcher. Draws into Thousand-Tailed Watcher. Surely that is going to be enough. With the Raven Bloom, with the Ezreal, with the Watcher.
There can still be Fight or Flight. So when you play Watcher, most of the time you don't have enough runes to do anything else. Held onto 7, by the way, of course, on the Targon's Peak. So now, if you are going for that Watcher, you have 4 runes left to do some shenanigans with. Vex is not going to help you. Now we're going to do something really smart, and we start poking. We start going for some combat
Fight
here.
Or Flight comes out. Surely that means it's it then, right? What else is in hand? That is the handshake, and Alan ZQ will take the game 2-0, 12-0, undefeated here in Bologna. That is incredible.
Look at that smirk on his face. Look at that smile. Alan ZQ is absolutely aura farming to the max. He's dominating the Riftbound scene. He has announced that he wants to go for multiple Ezreal, Prodigal Explorer, best of cards.
And surely in with a shot. Surely. Yeah. In a great position for that.
I think if he is playing that deck at every tournament, I think that is going to mean that the numbers for Ezreal players at these tournaments trying to go for the best of cards, they are going down, surely, because this is a player, this is the player you will have to compete with if you want to go for the best of Ezreal.
That is a scary deck to play against, because there are so many lanes. You literally cannot account for everything in that situation. The mid-combat, okay, I'll target Fizz, I'll grab something from my trash, I'll play it. There are so many options, even if you're just grabbing Cold Shot, looking for other things. And bringing the Vex tech in for those showdowns where you're going to focus on other parts of the game, I think is genius. It's so good. So credit to Alan, and I know Alan has testing partners that they're always talking about. So the team that have kind of workshopped on that, I would love to hear more about that as we see Alan go through the rest of the tournament. 12-0 is in such a wonderful position for Alan. And I mean, Marcus is a player we're expecting still to be competing. We're still looking at will they be able to make top 8, but that is a big name to take down on your way to an undefeated run so far for Alan ZQ.
Yeah, that should mean actually that we have Alan ZQ guaranteed in the top cut. Of course, I don't trust my words completely here, but I think that should be just one more round of Swiss. We were going to confirm that later on, of course.